Good morning, everybody. In the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have several other people joining us as we get going. My name is Janine Joy, and I'm the president and CEO of our United Way. And welcome to Coffee Chats. And I hope you all have your cup of coffee this morning. If you can't really see it, there you go. The purpose of these meetings is to give you a brief overview of some of our in-house programs. And we want to share the results that we've been having from these programs, the impact of the programs, and give you insight into some of the need for these programs as well. And hopefully by the end of our half-hour session, you're going to leave feeling really great about United Way and the impact we're having in our community and any investment you might have made in us, that you know the dollars are going to where they really need to be. I'm very fortunate that I get to work with people who completely and totally care about our community. And it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce Nancy Coker. She's the manager of our ReadingPals program, and she's going to share with you a little bit more about this program.
Thank you, Janine. Good morning, everybody. I do hope you have your coffee, and I have my NOLA cup. I hope there's a beignet waiting for me when I finish, and we're ready to chat. And I am so happy to talk about my program, ReadingPals, because it's something I love and feel really good about. Cliff asked me to write a grant, a literacy grant, in March of 2015. And so I jumped in and worked with a few people locally, and we got that grant written. And once it was approved, I guess I had myself a job because I became the manager of the ReadingPals program. Little history, ReadingPals was founded by Carol and Barney Barnett of Public Supermarkets Foundation. Carol Barnett, as most of you know, is the daughter of the founder of Publix, George Jenkins, and she's always been a very, very strong advocate for education in the state of Florida. When I came to Florida and got started in early education 30 some years ago, I heard her name right off the bat because she was so involved. She helped us carve out the rules for voluntary pre-K. She was right there with the legislature working on all of the promulgation of those laws, and was really a big help. So at some point, she and Barney decided to start ReadingPals, and they funded 10 programs.
Okay.
I guess it was one more. Yeah.
And they funded 10 programs to begin with. And then when they expanded to 15 is when we jumped in and started our program. The funding goes through the Children's Movement out of Miami. Carol is a board member there. Her son Wes has stepped in and is also very involved now. And the Children's Movement was founded by David Lawrence. Some of you may know David as also a huge advocate for children. So that's where our money comes from. It's filtered through. That's who we report to. ReadingPal, there are 17 ReadingPals programs around the state. Most of them are with United Ways, almost all. They love working with us and we love working with them. The grant parameters say that the whole purpose behind this is to recruit volunteers to work with young children on literacy skills and social emotional skills and all those things that make up the whole child when it comes to learning to read. We can work with pre-K up to 3rd grade. We started out only working with pre-K children because we thought that was the best place to start when they're very young. The first couple of years, that's what we did until some of the schools started asking us to extend it to their kindergartners and then even some 1st grades. And the reason behind that was they were finding that some of their kindergartners and 1st graders were also struggling with their literacy skills, and the materials that we had were not too advanced for them. They were still on a level that they could understand. So Janine, if you want to share the graph, I can show you why we do this. This graph, the first one is Lee County, the second one is Hendry, and the third one is Glades. and it shows the third grade reading scores of the children in these counties from 2015 to 2021. And as you can see, between 2019 and 2021, there's been quite a dip. I think we all expected that. There's going to be a lot of catching up to do. But even before that, you know, if you look at the numbers on the left side, we never have in Lee County gotten to even 60% of our third graders reading at grade level. And that's pretty bad. Hendry County really has some work to do. And Glades County, my goodness, they did some really strong new programming in 2019, and we're off to a great year. And then boom, COVID hit. So they've taken a big slide, and it's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll be able to pick that back up. But you know, the kids are going to really need some extra mentoring to come through the next couple of years. And they say that this research says that if a child is not reading at grade level in third grade, they are really going to have a hard time catching up. So it's important that we catch these children early. So at the height of our program, we had, which would have 2019, ReadingPals was in 20 schools, 44 classrooms, and we had 227 volunteers. Those volunteers were each working with 2 children for half an hour each week. And yes, you'll see some pictures of some of our Reading Pals. This little girl was in a wheelchair and was just delightful. Anyway, the Reading Pals go in once a week. And so it's just an hour commitment. And they have 2 children that they see every week. So they build this wonderful relationship. And I think that's probably the thing that makes me happiest, is seeing that relationship that the children end up with their reading pal. They really feel like they have a special person in their life. And as you can imagine, some of these children need that. They come from families that there's a lot of siblings and parents are working a couple of jobs, and they can use that one-on-one relationship. The teachers choose the children, and obviously they choose the children that they think need the most help. We give them a good 3 to 4 weeks with their children at the beginning of the school year to get to know them, so that they know which children need the help. And some of the teachers have been with us since the beginning, and some of the Reading Pals have been with us for a long time. And so the teachers know what personalities to put with which kids. So that's very helpful too. Unfortunately, this year we've had a big turnaround in teachers. I have a lot of teachers who retired or switched, moved away. It's been pretty disappointing, because obviously I like to stay with the same teachers who know the program well. So it'll be an interesting year. Last year we did some virtual reading at 2 schools. It certainly wasn't best practices, because the child was behind a computer and the reading pal was at a computer. It's hard to hold a book and show the book. We used a digital software where they could choose books. Hoping we don't have to do that this year. Right now we are planning on in-person. The school district has said that people will be allowed on campus, but it's up to each principal to decide how they want to handle that. So we are planning on 7 schools right now, and we will be recruiting. Hopefully as of tomorrow, we'll have everything ready for people to start signing up.
So Nancy, just to ask you a couple questions, and I know we have a reading pal with us today.
We do.
We do. And so it's really rewarding. It's very valuable for the children, obviously, because a lot of times parents who are working 2 jobs or whatever it may be, they don't have the time to spend with their children at home reading the way a lot of us grew up with. And that's detrimental to their learning process. And so you were mentioning about having that special person in their life. So it's just as rewarding for the Reading Pals as well, correct?
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yes. And Mary Snell with Pavis Law has been a Reading Pal for us since the beginning. Mary, would you like to give us a little testimonial or tell us
Sure.
about your experience?
I'd be happy to. I started out with Reading Pals kind of for almost a selfish reason. My youngest child was graduating from high school. I'd always been involved in my children's school and volunteering in the classroom or being on school board and those sort of things. And I kind of felt a void in my life. So I decided I was going to start with Reading Pals. And I volunteer at J. Colon English, which is one of our very needy schools here in the county. And I found I thought I was doing it for altruistic reasons because I was going to be helping children, and it really just expanded my heart. You really develop a relationship with these children. In some cases, you are that person who gives them one-on-one time because they don't get that anywhere else. The first year I did it, I had one young man who was Vietnamese, and in his household they only spoke Vietnamese. There was no English spoken. So the first few months it was quite a challenge just figuring out how to communicate with him, but he was such a sponge and he just blossomed, and by the end of the school year it was night and day difference, and that made me feel so good. And I would, it became the just the bright spot of my week. And I've had relationships with all the children, and some nights I will tell you, I would come home and at the dinner table with my husband and my daughter, I would be on the verge of tears because, while I felt I was doing good things for these children and that they really needed me, there were times when they would tell you things that would just break your heart. One year at Christmas time, I gave a little gift bag with, a little stuffed animal and a book. And the one little girl told me she didn't own any books. That was the first book she had that was her own. And at the end of the school year, the same child I had given kind of when my girls were in school, I always got them the summer workbooks that they could work on their writing and that sort of stuff. And she goes, well, how am I supposed to do this? Are you going to help me? I said, no, but you can ask your mom or dad. And she said, they'll get mad. And it was just, it broke my heart. But, you are, when you're doing this, you are making a difference. You are, I'm a firm believer that if you can break that cycle early on, they can succeed. And so, this has just been a real important part of my life. And it's just to share a little anecdote. It's, my youngest daughter, Caroline, went to the University of Florida and she saw what I was doing here. And when she got up there, she contacted the Alachua County United Way, and she was instrumental in helping found a Gator Reading Pals on the University of Florida. And excuse me, she got the University of Florida students involved in volunteering and going into the schools, and she was their president for 2 years, and it's made a difference. Excuse me, I get emotional about this, so I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, Mary. That was very nice. Yeah, we have a lot of really dedicated and loyal volunteers like Mary who are really into it. And it's hard not to be when, you see these little ones, especially if they touch your heart in a very special way. Another story that I like to tell is about a little boy at the same school where Mary is. And his reading pal was a gentleman. And the teacher did that on purpose. We did that on purpose because the little boy had no qualms telling everybody that his dad was in jail. I mean, everyone he met, he said, my daddy's in jail. He really, really missed his daddy. So Frank became very special to him. And Frank was sick for a few weeks and was not able to come a couple of times in a row. The teacher said that the little boy was just really sad and didn't really talk about it. But the day that he walked into the classroom from recess and Frank was sitting there waiting for him, the little boy said, I knew he would come back. I knew he wouldn't leave me, and just gave him a big hug. Can you imagine? So that was a pretty special bond. Janine, do you want to share the other graph or the other slide that I sent you? Just want to, it's not, I mean, the importance of reading to these kids and helping them with their literacy skills is definitely one of the prime reasons we do this, and the social emotional pieces of it are equally important, but we also look at how they improve. And so this is a graph from our last annual report, which would have been 2019, that shows the things that we look at in their scores. So the first one is PK, which is print knowledge. And that is just recognizing letters and the sounds that go with those letters. Obviously, you know, a pre-Ker is going to learn to write their name first. And if you ever work with a young child and you think that A is the most important letter to start with, it's not. It's the letter that their name starts with. So remember that. Bob does not care about A's. Bob likes B's. So work on the B's first. But anyway, print knowledge, recognizing how you see print. Phonological awareness is the next thing we look at. And it's a big term for sounds. So a phoneme is the small sound that a letter makes. If you take the word red, you will learn that there are 3 phonemes to red, I, D. And that's how you literally learn to read, by recognizing the sounds that go with those letters. People think sometimes that you innately know how to read when you're born, or that's the natural thing to learn. It's not. You have to be taught to read, and the English language is not easy. And then oral language is the third one. And that's simply vocabulary. You know, using words with kids is so important. Some people tend to dummy down vocabulary words, and you shouldn't, because these children are little sponges. And if they don't know the word, you tell them what it is and you talk about it, and then guess what? They'll know it. We had a mom one time, this was in my previous career, she was reading a book about chameleons. It's called A Color of My Own. It's in our repertoire of books. And every time she got to the word chameleon, she changed it to lizard. And so at the end I said, why did you do that? The word was chameleon. And she said, but they don't know what chameleons are. They know lizards. And so I gently, said, you know what? They would learn at the end of this book what a chameleon is. So let's not dumb it down. I didn't say that to her, but we need to use those words. A lot of what's happening, researchers say today with oral language, is people are not taking the time to do what we call serve and return conversations with children, where the tennis term, serve and return, you make a statement or ask an open-ended question and you wait for a conversation sentence to come back, and you have those conversations. Parents are so busy and so preoccupied that they just give directions, and they just give close-ended statements or yeses and nos as answers. And we need to supply our children with vocabulary, meaningful vocabulary. And it makes them feel so good when they learn a word, that they can then toss around. So these are these scores. I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent. These scores are the difference between the children who participated in ReadingPals, which are the green, and the children who were our comparison group. We took a group of kids in the same classroom who were not participants in ReadingPals, and it shows, it shows a difference, big difference. Now, whether or not, there's all kinds of things that could skew those numbers, but at least it gives us something to hang our hat on and say, yeah, it looks like we're making a difference.
Nancy, I heard a lot of technical terms from you and things like that, which I don't want people to think that you have to have a teaching background or anything to be a reading pal. So if somebody wants to be a reading pal, what's involved in those steps to be a reading pal?
You have to have patience and a pulse. You don't have to be a former teacher. You really just have to, really seriously, Mary can vouch for this. You have to have a lot of patience, especially if you're working with a 4-year-old. They're squirmy little children. They don't get, some of them have never been in a school environment. So they don't know how to sit still. They don't even know how to hold a book sometimes. So you're really teaching them the beginning. And like Mary said, her little guy who didn't even have a book at home, one of our goals is to supply books to the children throughout the year to take home and build a home library. And typically we give them anywhere between 8 and 10 books throughout the year. But you have to form a relationship, and really you don't have to have any skills except to want to do well and want to enjoy, being with the children. Yes, there are really good readers, and then there are some people who learn to be good readers. And I know that sounds kind of silly. You might think, oh, well, I can read, but you need to read with enthusiasm. You need to use, your voice for little old lady stuff and big bear stuff. And if you're reading a book, for example, Silly Sally, which is part of our repertoire. Silly Sally Goes to Town Upside Down is the theme of the book. And Silly Sally is just like the title says, very silly. But as you turn the pages, you come to see the pattern that Silly Sally's going to pick up somebody else to take the town at the turn of each page. So a really good reader is going to help that child anticipate what's going to happen when you turn the page. And that cognitive building is so good for the children to think about what's going to happen because of what they've seen in the past. We do a training with our Reading Pals, and throughout the year, we try to give them tips on how to pick up some of these skills and make it more enthusiastic. So really, you just need to have the will to do it, show up. Consistency is so important. If you're sporadic, you're not building that relationship like you need to. Just enjoy it.
So we will be opening up the registration soon for volunteers. And it's 1 hour a week. There is an application involved. There is a background check involved because you are actually interacting with children. So it's a safety issue for everyone. And the curriculum that goes with everything, not only the training, but you get into the classroom and everything that you need is there. You're not providing the books. You're not providing the curriculum. That's already been done for you, right, Nancy?
Correct. Yes. The books are there. There's activities that go along with the books. You can take in your own things. People start getting used to taking in some extra arts and crafts, maybe. If a child is not interested in the book that you had planned to read, by all means, you go choose a book off the shelf in the classroom. The teachers are more than happy to let you do that, because if a child is engaged in the book, in the story, they're going to be more engaged with you. So if a child is like obsessed with dinosaurs, we only have one book of dinosaurs. So if that's all he wants to read about, then go find more dinosaur books, because that makes a difference. But if you're coming off the tennis court and you didn't have time to go home and change and such, you just go to your school, you show up, and all the materials are there.
And then,
and Nancy, if I could add too, there are times when, for instance, if a child is having specific, problems with specific things, like just writing their name. I know Mrs. Figueroa, my teacher, would ask me to, when we were done reading, to work with them on that. So, you pitch in and you help where the help is needed. So I think that's really great too. So
that's why the teachers love you so much.
and there are other opportunities as well. If, we sometimes have civic groups or companies actually sponsor a classroom. So those take-home books that Nancy was talking about, especially over long breaks like Christmas break and spring break, where we know that they're going to have a long time off and we don't want them to have that backward slide. And then of course it's summer, we're providing books for the children to take home, which again might be some of the first books they've ever owned. And if they have siblings in the home, that's really great, because now they can practice with their younger siblings as well. So there are opportunities to sponsor classrooms. Nancy, anything else you want to share about that?
No, we are definitely in need of books for this year. Our supply has diminished quite a bit, and I'm always looking for deals on books. And like Janine said, if there may only be 4 to 8 children in a classroom participating in the program, but when we can give a book to every child in the classroom, it's so joyful because the whole classroom erupts and they're so happy. So I have a few people who do book drives through their churches. They're gently used or brand new books. Of course, we like brand new books. And if they're gently used, they need to be very gently, because I like giving the children something very special. But we're always looking for donations of books or just dollars to buy books and help give those children a chance to take a book home.
Nancy, do you work with the libraries, the public libraries, to get books?
We do not, Corey. I tried that at the beginning, and they were reluctant to give us books because they had so many other outlets. But I think it's worth trying again. So good suggestion. I will revisit that.
The reason I ask is because my daughter, was an absolute bookworm, and having recently gone to college, she had to clear her bookshelves of excess books. And I know they're not the ones that your children would want, but she had no idea where to take them. The library didn't want them.
I know. Because
the library felt that they had enough and they couldn't resell them. But if perhaps we could get the library to put a sign up that says, please give us as many of your pre-K books as possible, maybe that would be a source. I don't know if they'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. We also have one of those little free libraries out in front of our office that we keep supplied with all kinds of books. So children's, adolescents, grown-up books. We do get a lot of used books dropped off that I go through and try to choose the ones that I think seem appropriate. It's hard to know from book covers and such, but I don't want to put books in there that I don't think are good books, and it's just hard to judge. But anyway, we do have a little free library, and people are using it in the Harlem Heights neighborhood. So that's one outlet we can put the older books in. But I will check in with the library again, Corey. Thank you.
Perhaps also if we have the teacher back to school where they come in and fill their classrooms with the supplies we provide, maybe we can put a little sign up saying to the kindergarten teachers to ask them to have a book drive. And for parents who are looking to purge the pre-K books, maybe they can have a book drive. Just spread the word. Just trying to think of ways to spread the word.
Great.
All right,
Absolutely. And Corey, sometimes with the older books, we will reach out to places like Salus Care, who they have adolescent units, and their books in there may not be in the best shape or outdated, or they just disappear sometimes. So we make sure that we connect with different agencies that have different age levels too. So any books are welcome. We will make sure they get into the right hands. We've even taken some out to our other counties. So we are at a minute and a half to go. So I want to thank everyone again for actually connecting with us this morning, spending your morning with us just to learn more about this great program. Reading Pals truly is making a difference in these children's lives, breaking that cycle, really making sure that our children have the best setup to succeed in life. And if we make this early on and they know someone cares about them and that reading hurdle is really overcome, it's going to change the outlook on their whole educational career. It makes school so much easier when you can actually read proficiently. It truly is changing the lives of these future leaders of our community. So I want to thank Mary for volunteering. If anybody wants to volunteer, we're hoping that'll be up later this week or early next week on our website, which is unitedwaylee.org. There are many ways for you to get involved, but feel free to reach out to Nancy or any of us really if you want to know more about the program. So again, thank you for spending your time with us this morning on Coffee Chat.
Thank you. Thank you.